Have you ever wondered if church is actually growing or if we're just swapping sheep?
Yeah, we call it growth, but it's usually just transfer.
It's crazy because if you look at Lifeway Research Institute, they said that it's 80% of church growth comes from transfers, not new believers.
Yeah, and only 1 in 4 churches reach the unchurched at all.
That's not multiplying disciples. That's just moving members.
And if that's true, our problem isn't attendance, it's discipleship.
We've learned, I think, as a church, how to grab attention for a weekend or for a series, but not how to walk with people for years.
And you can't microwave discipleship. It really is a long obedience in the same direction. I'm John Oliver.
I'm Ian Dunaway, and this is Shaping Student Ministry.
I believe that we stand on the verge of a historic moment.
You ask them what it is about rock and roll music that they like, and the first thing they'll say is the beat, the beat, the beat.
I found pardon for my past, power for the present, bright prospect for the future.
If you talk to the average teenager of today, I know what it does to you.
That could have an unparalleled and unprecedented impact.
I've got a story to tell. Have you?
Like we said before, my name is Ian.
And I'm John. And today we're talking about something every student pastor knows: living series to series.
I don't know. We have, John, we include in all of our network, when you're a member, it's not, we always say it's like $27 a month, but there's years of studies. And I think that those absolutely have their place. I think you need to have short-term studies because you got to study certain things at certain times. But there is this struggle for student pastors, and it's, we're going to talk about how we can meet that today and what we can do. But man, just how it feels to get, like, you got 2 weeks of comfort for most series because they're usually like 4 weeks long, and you're like, oh, we're starting a new series, and then you're like, oh, okay, it's a little bit better, and then the third one you're like, oh, we're ramping up, and then you're like, oh, we're closing the series, get ready for the next one, and there's just not a lot of time to rest and relax, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you can have different, we kind of incorporate our shorter studies on Wednesdays. Some guys do their shorter studies on Sundays. We like to do ours on Wednesdays. And, sometimes we like to do real short ones so that students want more. And then sometimes we like to do longer ones if the content is necessary to do longer ones. But really and truly, kind of like where the discipleship is taking place, the formation is taking place, is the long-term study. And so look, we build great content. I believe that.
Yeah.
But we
absolutely.
don't lose sight of long-term discipleship when we're doing that.
It's got to be a both and, right? Like,
Yeah.
because it's discipleship by its very nature is a long relationship and a long understanding, but it's also having short moments. I think Mike Breen used to say, he used this idea of kairos moments, that there are chronos and kairos.
Yeah. Defining moments.
Yeah. And there is this long stream of chronos that is linear time. And that should be discipleship, and there should be consistency in that. But that as God meets us throughout that, there are kairos moments where he does something big, he reteaches something. And I think that if we look at ministry, I'm taking it a little bit out of context because he's talking about individual discipleship, but I don't think it's very far out of that. I think
it's not a far leap to get where you're going.
Yeah, I think that if there needs to be a constant that you're discipling with your students that's going along this line. And then I think that, that's what we're going to talk about today. But along that line, that's why I think short-term studies are so great, is that there are these moments where you're like, hey, we're going to focus on stress and how God deals with it. Hey, we're going to focus on revelation. We're going to focus on hermeneutics. And as you're doing that, there's always this consistency. And a lot of guys, it can be anywhere you want it to be, but a lot of guys see that helping in their Sunday school small group hours on a Sunday morning. There's kids that they know are going to come back most of the time. But I don't think we're seeing that a lot. And often the options I think we have are just not that great to do that with, right? And so I don't know, today we want to unpack why, the why for the students, why, and honestly for our churches, why they need a year-long discipleship plan for spiritual formation.
The truth is, Ian, that culture actually gives us a clue as for why long-term actually works.
Yeah, it does, because I think it's funny. We look at, this is kind of why we started with this idea of reaching people. It's like, we're really good in the church world at speaking church language. And listen, I don't, if you're listening to this, if you're one of our, tens of listeners, and you're listening to this, I don't want you to hear what I'm not saying. I'm not telling you that we shouldn't teach the words that God has for people. We shouldn't give them a Christian vocabulary, a clear vocabulary. But when it's Christianese, and this is why I think we're only that maybe 25% of our growth is anybody that's not in church, is because we're just we get who we attract and who we speak to, and I don't think we're understanding the culture very well.
Well, and culture has shifted, right? I mean, there's long form storytelling and there's short term storytelling. So you have reels, and then you have longer form content, like the Joe Rogan podcast, for instance.
So long.
one of the absolute hottest podcasts as far as attendance, or as far as viewership. But bro, it's like 3 hours an episode.
I even looked at, like, Sean Ryan is real popular. I don't watch him a lot. I've seen a couple of his things, but some of his podcasts are 7 hours.
Yeah, I don't really understand that, and I'm sure YouTube doesn't appreciate the upload.
That's not long form, John. That's like, I don't know what another word for long is that's even worse, but that's like a journey.
Yeah,
going on a quest.
that is what we call drudgery, not delight. So I would love, but culture shifted, right? People binge,
absolutely.
People binge stories, not moments.
Well, and you see that, I think you see that in miniseries. So, like, when we were studying for this and looking at this, The Guardian, it says, miniseries have exploded because they're long enough to invest and they're short enough to finish. But it's funny that movies, they're not, I don't know if they're on the decline. Like, everybody takes everything to an extreme. I'm not saying movies are going away. I like movies. I love movies. But it's interesting that sometimes you watch, like, miniseries and you go, that could have been a movie. Like, because you've invested 8 hours in it, and it doesn't feel like you're doing a long, but people are engaged over time. And I kind of think when we look at student ministry and ministry in general, right? I mean, student ministry is just tomorrow's ministry. And so when you look at ministry, I kind of think if you're speaking to the culture, you've got both of those things. You have your movies that are like your short-term series that are coming up. And then you got your miniseries that's just rolling year to year, right?
Well, and what I loved during COVID was, like Loki came out during COVID. I can remember it was like the first thing. Yeah. But they,
and then after that, Marvel died.
Yeah.
And then Mike
they released it slowly, and it was like, it was something to look forward to. And so you can create that content in a way that is captivating but good storytellers will never go out of style.
No. I mean, we're a people, God designed us to love story and to want story.
Well, God designed us to love story. God reveals himself in story.
Right.
Jesus is a phenomenal storyteller, actually. Shameless plug. We have a study called Jesus the Storyteller. But yeah, I mean, that's true. You have Parrot Analytics said by 2020, limited series demand surpassed ongoing shows.
I mean, it is crazy because it's like we want this a certain length of time. And I almost think, I mean, I'm all for saying, when you do that, and this is the other side of it too, there's a lot of pastors. This is what is a struggle, I think, serving pastors, because we serve a lot of them, is pastors don't want to be told that they don't know that they could be better at what they're doing. And so that's always a struggle. They don't want to really invest anything because they're always afraid, and they live in a scarcity mindset of I don't know, I don't have a lot. The truth is, if you want to be good at it, you can't just do a series. I talked to the guy the other day who just said, well, all my kids, they need the Old Testament, and they need it all the time, and they need to understand it. And I said, that's great. What are you doing? Well, I haven't figured it out yet. And I said, well, you could be doing this. And it takes a lot of work to build and to prepare something that enables people to do that. And I think we've got to be studiers, and we have to be good storytellers like Christ and good teachers. And I as we kind of get like the 8-episode arcs, Fiveable did this article on the 8-episode arcs is kind of the sweet spot for attention. And what's interesting for us, I know that this is kind of adapting it for church work, but for us, we tend to do 4 quarter arches throughout the year in all of our series. We do them almost like, we have one coming out in January called 43 for 52, and it's done like the ESPN 30 for 30 style, but every quarter it's a new look and like a new season of the show, same logo. But it's really, really cool.
I was talking earlier to a guy on staff. My wife and I, we like to binge watch TV shows, and you and I talk, like I'm the guy that if I have like a Thanksgiving dinner, I'm going to eat I'm going to eat my turkey, then I'm going to eat my green beans, then I'm going to eat like I don't
I eat it all at once.
yeah, I don't mix and match. Like I finish one thing at a time. I don't know why I do that. I just do. But I'm that way with my TV shows. Like I can read 10 books at once. But when it comes to watching my TV shows, I start one and I finish it. And then and then we go to the next one. But this one is a 16 or 15 seasons, 18 to 22 episodes each. And it's ER, like the original ER. We just finished it last night. Just finished it. So, anyway, I was telling
They
the
went from
guy,
Windows 95 all the way up to like what, Windows Vista by the time you were done?
well, like iPhone 3.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. But we were talking about that. But he said, you know, John, it's crazy to think like those shows in the 90s and the early 2000s, you're looking at 20 episode seasons, 25 episode seasons. He said now, and he literally just said this, having no idea we were talking about this today. He said, now the sweet thing is you want to be somewhere between 6 to 10. He said, that's really where you want to be.
And everything and it's almost, we've moved them to an hour. And the truth is it's almost, this is kind of what I love movies and TV. Okay. Some people go and hike. I like to watch TV. Like that's my favorite. In fact, some people have a runner's body. I have a movie body. But all that to say,
yeah, I'm built for comfort, not for speed.
That's 100% right. And so but when I watch things based on creativity and based on what is new and what is interesting. And sometimes I like formulaic shows, and I'll watch because I just enjoy that. It's not really going to be dirty. It's not really going to be super surprising. It's going to be the same for detective shows, fireman shows, police, all that kind of shows are like that. And it gets boring, and sometimes it's really fun, but sometimes it just like I'll work, and while I'm working, sometimes I'll keep a show on just so that I have noise. But when it comes to serious viewing, it is like I really enjoyed. I watched a new show with Mark Ruffalo called Task. And I think it's really good.
Is that the new one on Max?
Yeah, yeah, it is. But no, it's HBO Max again.
HBO Max.
They've changed. They've rebranded twice, but all that. Like I watched it and I heard it was really good. I heard that Penny from, I can't remember her name right, from Big Bang Theory, Kelly Cuoco, something like that.
Cuoco.
She read it. Her husband's in it. She read the script and said, "You've got to do this." And it was, but I liked it because it wasn't. Hannah and I got done watching it. It was, I think, 6 or 7 episodes, and we just went, that was good. It was original enough. It had good turns and twists. I like that. And I think that like I was able to invest more in a show because I didn't have 20 episodes, 4 or 5 or 6. Well, I don't know how many, 20, what is it? 20 times 20 minutes. Every 3 episodes is an hour. So you're really looking at almost 7 or 8 hours worth in a regular TV show. And I just didn't have to think that long about it. So,
well,
it's
and I think too, people would rather things be more concise and have meaning, and not just seek to entertain them, which is why I think we see guys that are using the studies that we're putting out that are having a lot of success because, these students are being loved on and they are feeling entertained, but they're also getting meaning. And that's what discipleship is. It's a story of growth and tension and resolution. And so maybe the reason students aren't changing isn't our content, it's our timeline. So let's talk about why long-term curriculum matters, not just for organization, but transformation.
Yeah. So here's the why on it. So we talked about the fun stuff, and we can recommend TV shows all day long, and then you can judge us for it, whatever. But here's why we think students, and the important part, need long-term curriculum. Here's the first one: is that discipleship takes time, tension, repetition, and relationship. Okay. If you're taking notes, time, tension, repetition, and relationship. Now, within that, the reason is because how many people do you know? Because we have built either a consumer mindset or a pipeline mindset, both of which are not Christ-like. People want a formula. They don't want formation. And so they want a formula that goes, oh, well, yeah, I just plug people into my new growth program in my pipeline and I get them right there. Well, everybody is different. People, and you don't have to be, we all know that in student ministry. And there's a difference between we all read the same book that helps us, and then we bring our views together and we start talking about the singular vision of where we're headed, because people can contribute to a vision. But the idea that everybody fits one mold is just not helpful, because you need long-term discipleship, because people act like they're a microwave. The truth is it's more like a crock pot. You don't want to, you're not going to smoke a brisket for 4 days, probably, for the average guy, but you could throw a roast in a crock pot, and it takes time, but it's helpful.
Yeah.
I remember youthworker.com did a did an article that said, intentional curriculum produces ministry fruit. And if we're not just long-term, but we are intentional about every step of the way, I mean, that builds fruit over time.
Well, and I think it matters too the way, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but it matters the way that you design the curriculum and the curriculum specifically that you're using. I mean, I've used some long-term curriculum in the past. Now, I will say, admittedly, if you were around, let's say 12 years ago, 13 years ago in the student ministry game, the Gospel Project was brand new to market.
Yeah. I actually worked down the hall from the guy that wrote it for a little while.
When the Gospel Project was new to market, it was phenomenal, but it was a textbook. I had the content that they gave us was so much for leaders. I mean, do you remember you could split one lesson into 4 or 5 weeks? And so all that to say, what they have done well over time, and I think they've kind of gone away from it again because it's harder in different ways now. But one of the things that they did well for a season was they streamlined it to make it easier for the leader. I think they've gone a little too far in that direction. It's not hard enough. But now, what we try to do in our stuff is we want it to be every week be the same. Here's why. Because not only do we believe intentional curriculum produces ministry fruit, we also know that if you're giving people too much to prep fatigue will kill your leader creativity and will kill longevity. Your turnover will be absolutely crazy.
You're looking at that on the leader level, that their prep fatigue is big. And I even think we can expand that to the pastor level. And we can say that if you're always having to prep a new thing and you don't have, on Sunday, if you're doing a new thing on Sundays, a new thing on Wednesdays, and a new thing so having a baseline, it lets you stay. It takes a while to feel and learn a series like this, but when you do it, it absolutely gets better and better as you go if you realize that. So fatigue, too much content. And here, you want to know, this is just my hot take because I used to work with those guys and write that stuff.
Do it.
It's not even that hot of a take, but I think the problem is that a lot of these companies, this is why I love what we do and what we get to do, and why we serve guys the way that we do, guys and girls all over the country, is this: if they marry themselves to a concept when they should have just made it a series and been done. So there are 3 major, at least at Lifeway, I know about them specifically, there's 3 ongoing types of content. And so once it's all about going through the Bible and tracing the narrative. Well, once you do that in 3 years, then you got to do it again. And then you have to think it from another angle and another angle. And I think that's where it gets confusing, where it should have been a 3-year run. And then they keep editing and preparing that 3 years and it's advanced for people to use it. Well, that's kind of our heart. It's so crazy. Lines that we do. And that's kind of what inspires us to do this particular podcast. Lines is 48 weeks. And you go from Genesis to Revelation and you see Jesus traced through all of Scripture. And you see
here's quarter 1 and quarter 3.
That's nice. We do it in quarters. They're all different colors. So it's the idea of tracing Christ through all of Scripture. But I just got a text today, as this is being recorded, from a youth director named Hannah Mann in Arizona. And I just said, hey, how's Lines going? She's starting quarter 4. And she said, I had one of my girls said, I get it now. It's Lines. We're tracing Jesus through Scripture.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. And she said, that's great. But here's the thing. We expect so much of a single series. And then we talk so little about how kids struggle to understand. It takes 3/4 of a year for kids to go, oh, I see what we're doing. And they're paying attention, but it's got to be good enough, quality enough, and accessible enough to your leaders so that you can do that, because year-long curriculum pays off.
Well, and not to mention, there is research to back this up. That and Gallup and Pew Research are the 2 that did it, that only 30% of your people are the ones who attend weekly. So
that's
the fewer
right.
weeks, the weeks that we get matter. But, like you said, depth takes time. You can't build roots in 4 weeks.
That's right. That's 100% right.
Repetition. Repetition builds conviction. I mean, you've got to form your habits through rhythms.
Repetition. I mean, relationships thrive on rhythm and repetition, don't they? I mean, that is, you have to have that.
Well, think of what the way that we parent or the way that we relate to our wives.
Yeah.
Right. Repetition builds trust. Repetition is it is where relationships thrive.
Right.
Is in that rhythm.
But it's funny. I've said this before. I say this even on I say this in some of my trainings and talks that I do with other people. We want a familial closeness, a family level closeness with the people that we lead, and we do it on a dentist schedule. Why? we don't really know our dentists like family. You want to know why? Because I get 2 cards a year. I get a checkup card and a birthday card that says, "Hey, it's time for your cleaning." And we act like students after one series, after a really short amount of time, that they're supposed to get it, and when they don't, we get discouraged and we go, I don't think they're getting it. Well, the truth is, because we're kind of just like the dentist for a while. And you gotta understand, you will always come to discipleship at a deficit. Always. Because you don't know them. And trust always comes from 2 things, John. Remember, we talk about this all the time. Trust comes from 2 things. It comes from consistency and time. And you can only be consistent over time and build that trust. And that's what curriculum like this does. When you're doing a year-long plan, you're building consistency with a few different people. You're building trust with parents who see that you have an intentional plan. You're building trust with your pastor who is overseeing you, that goes, oh, they've got a plan and they're enacting it. You build trust with your leaders who go, oh, you're not just coming up with this junk 2 days before every time. And 4, you're creating trust with your students who see that there is more depth to you than a flashy story every week that they could just get off Netflix.
Well,
Like most churches are trying to be K-pop demon hunters, and that's like they just want to be for 2 hours, and then students are like, I can just go watch it on Netflix.
Yeah, well, and I'm telling you, man, there's something to, and I think that the longer that you're in ministry, the longer you understand the gravity of your job. You are trusted with spiritual formation of the most precious commodity that people have, their children. Not only are you trusted with their children, but they're asking you to give their children your most precious commodity, your time. And when you think of investing the most precious resource of time in the most precious of people to others, like, man, the job that we have requires a lot. It requires a lot. And when people see that you have a plan, they're more willing to trust you with precious commodities. You have to prove that you can be trusted with people's time and with their children.
And I'll tell you, it ruins, the only thing that ruins trust, people will forgive you. We say this all the time. People will forgive you for mistakes. They won't forgive you for inconsistency. And what most people, you've got to fight everybody else's bad reputation. And you got to be able to say, this is the plan I have. And then you got to do it. And a lot of guys go, man, this is what we're going to do. And then it all fizzles out. And I think we have to keep short-term and long-term in perspective. Long-term is formation, and then you look at short-term as inspiration. And so your short-term
what's that
stuff,
thing that you always say about sparking change?
Oh, yes. It's, oh gosh, now I'm forgetting it. Oh, that a 4-week series can spark change, but a year-long journey can sustain it.
Yeah, that's right.
And your Wednesday, we all know how it is. Your Wednesday nights, just for students, at least what I hope it is that you are working to get them connected into the body as a whole. And so when you do a series on stress, when you do a series through Philippians, when you do, I'm naming series we have, when you do a series on hermeneutics and students go, oh, there's so much more. That is not an end in of itself, because you cannot sustain the majority of students without their parents and families, without them being in the body of Christ. And so you want to lead them in. And so when you've got a river like this good long-term study, like what we're like lines or 43 through 52, and you're jumping in and you're pushing people towards it, right? Like they are absolutely going, oh, this was amazing. And it inspires them. And then you push them in to be in long-term relationships.
So here's then my question. Kind of think about the why. Now we kind of shift our brains to the how. So if long-term is the goal, how do we build that without burning out?
That is a good question. So I would look at it this way. Building long-term discipleship starts with a few things. One, it starts with a destination. So where you want students to be, where do you want students to be spiritually in 12 months? So
or 7. I mean, you can think of it. I think it's important to think of it in 12 months. I think it's important to think of it in 7 years. Like if you're with these kids the whole time, but obviously you start with what you can control. 7, do 12 months. I think you map your year.
Oh yeah. You should always map your year, but I think like when you're looking, so if we look at lines, for instance, like, and that's kind of what inspires us. It's something that it's cheaper than everybody else's year-long curriculum but it's higher quality. So like if you just, some of the quotes we got from a leader that's on our website, he said, this is what the Gospel Project was supposed to be. Like we hear that, we've had guys teach other year-long curriculums one week and then ours the next week to see what the leaders liked. And they picked what we're doing because of how thought out it is and how clear. I say all that to tell you, if you find a quality 1-year curriculum it's going and use that as a barometer to say, this is where we need to be in. Like it shows you, this is what a 12-month plan looks like. And then it can help you not only develop your own, but most of the time, it's not about having to do everything on your own. It's about curating the best stuff and using it with your people. And so like your map could look like in the fall, this many weeks, this many months, we're going to do identity. The winter, we're going to do relationships. Spring, we're going to do purpose. Summer, we're going to do mission. For SSM, I mean, those are topics. For SSM, I would always push, and this is our heart, is that it would be text driven more than it would be theme driven. So like I'm just giving you those as examples, but like for us, a quarter one is creation to what is it? Creation to covenant? Yeah. Or is it creation? You've got it right there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. We've done a lot of writing.
Yeah. Creation to covenant, from the beginning to God's promises.
So we decided that the first quarter, whatever you stow, 12 weeks, it's going to be that.
Yeah.
Then the next 12 weeks is
slaves to kings.
Yeah. So we look at Israel's slavery all the way to the era of the kings. And that's pretty much the end of the New Testament. We look through Babylon and all that. But then in the third quarter,
well, you got you got exile to hope. So the path of warning, judgment, and hope. So there's 3 quarters in Old Testament.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. And then there's 1 quarter in the New Testament. And you might think, how do you cover the New Testament in 12 weeks? Well, just look at us, because we did.
It's a lot. Yeah. And we think we're the perfect examples? No, but it's high quality. And people love it. I'm going to tell you this. I would rather take something that I could make my own, that I could trust the people. And you listen to us every week. This is your first time listening to us. You listen to us this week. And I think it's worth checking out, especially in the other side of it is.
If it sucks, you just email ian@g6allies.com. That's his real email.
Plenty of people do. We do search and placement and finding the right, like helping churches and pastors find each other. And I had a guy message me yesterday that said, who do you think you are that you could be the Spirit? And I was like, don't use me. I'm used to it. Say what you want to say. But the cool thing is you can always talk with us. Something you can't do anywhere else is you can always connect and talk with the author. And we want to connect with you and help you. But yeah, you can build, you want to build flexibility into your structure. So the breaks fit that, hey, we're not going to meet these Sundays. That's why we kind of do a 48 week and not a 52 week, because there's going to be weeks you're off, weeks you're doing, like weeks your whole church is doing stuff.
And if there's not weeks you're off, you just tell your pastor, hey, there's only 48 weeks, so we need to be off some weeks.
we need to make I need a vacation.
Yeah. We also have some really good Advent stuff if you want to do that during that time. But so build flexibility into your structure. That's huge. Creating a rhythm is huge. Like being able to talk to your parents, the ones that parents and volunteers can follow, right? Because those are the people that you need to be on board.
Well, that's why all of our series, short-term or long-term, we put parent emails in. Like we want you to have parent emails that you can copy and paste, because here's the other thing. People go, well, my parents don't read the emails. Well, how long have you been sending them consistently? Well, about like 2 or 3 months now. Okay. Well, until you're doing it for about 9 months to a year and you've started having conversations with them based on those emails, nobody, if they're not used to seeing it, then there's not trust there. It's just, oh, well, it's just another thing. And so that's huge. I think focusing on health and not hype, man.
Yeah. That's huge.
Yeah. That's because we live in a world of hype. Like Christianity should always be countercultural, not because you're trying to be countercultural, but because it really is at the root of everything we do. It's always going to push back on, hey, there is hype in this, but it's not about the hype, right?
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that I get really worn out with people, it's kind of like a grinds my gears, pet peeve kind of thing, is when people talk about, like, the big one is when we cut off service at noon, like when we're like, all right, we're winding it down.
Right.
And when the people go, well, the Spirit was moving and y'all just quenched the Spirit. Like, if you don't think God can move in order, that's foolish, because God is a God of order. God likes order. And so that's important. But in the same way, the reason I say that is because in the same way that guy emailed you and talked about, are you the Spirit? People will say, well, long-term planning, it really restricts the Spirit and it restricts creativity. And what I would argue is that it does quite the opposite of that. I think when we put structure on things, it actually creates room for the Spirit to move in a huge way.
I just preached to my church on Ezra. And Ezra, what does God do? God has him go back and rebuild the temple that requires plans. He has him go back and read the law to them. Like, it is absolutely, God is all about structure and purpose and intention. And it's like, because what did they do? God said, before you get walls to the city, you better get my altar right and you better get the temple right.
Yeah.
And then we'll worry about your safety. And I think, you're 100% right. I've had worship leaders that worked with me that would say, I'm not even going to write down my set list for camp because I just want the Spirit to move. No, you're just lazy.
Yeah,
Like
and at
you're
that
just
point, if
lazy.
I could fire them, I would, right? Because
I
look,
would have.
when you put a plan in place, benefits stack up, and they stack up.
100%.
They stack up fast. It's a culture shift, right? When people begin to see, oh my gosh, he's got it together. There's a plan in place, and so I just want to talk about a couple benefits, right, of long-term curriculum. And look, I know at this point we're getting long in the tooth in this episode, but
Wait, we're going to be done in the next 5 minutes.
Hang with us. Here's the thing. The benefit of long-term curriculum, and I'm gonna just throw this one out there, is it keeps you on task long-term. You know where you're going.
Yeah, that's right.
And so it eliminates the scramble, and it allows you to be creative in other places.
Well, but it prevents short-sighted ministry too. Like you're not living week to week, and that's what we need to get past is living in greater seasons, because this is the thing. Some guys will say, well, I don't want to be constrained and I want to do this and that. The truth is, I would just challenge you to try what we're doing, because so many guys say the opposite and go, I have freedom now because it's productive and and they're not having to be reactive. They're able to respond well and to do things well.
Well, and I think if anybody has been in ministry any length of time, you know the conversations that come up in the hallways. You have people that say, hey, you know what our students really need right now? Well, no, enlighten me. And so they'll share what they think. And like, sometimes it's like, yeah, there's other ways to get at that than what we're teaching. But then other times I'm able to look at them and say, I really appreciate that. And I do think that that's worth looking into, but I don't want to rush into that haphazardly. Let me tell you what we're planning to do for this calendar year on Sundays and Wednesdays. This is the plan we have in place. But let me tell you, as I'm looking towards next year, I'm going to take that and I'm going to think about what would that look like to incorporate that into what we're doing. And so it gives flexibility when you're able to do that, because you don't have to scramble, but it also, your yeses can be yes and your no can be no. And that's super, super huge. And look, that what ultimately, I guess, if I'm tying that into a ball, is it prevents being short-sighted and reactionary in ministry, because you're actually able to be productive.
Well, and everything you're saying leads into this, like that it helps parents see the plan. And that's the big thing too, is that when you're a student pastors, there's always this moment in Narnia and Prince Caspian where Lucy almost gets hit by a bear, like gets attacked, and they shoot it, and she goes, I don't even think that bear could talk. And the dwarf says, he said he couldn't. If you treat an animal like it's dumb long enough, it becomes that. And I think that we have treated so many student pastors like babysitters and middle managers so long that they just become that. And I don't want you to become that. Like, you are a minister to families. Like, so we want to be able to help parents see the plan. We want you to see genuine formation and grow students deeper. And we want your leaders to have a clear vision. Like, your leaders will jump onto a vision like this and go, oh yeah. Well, I had a leader tell me a month or two ago, they just said, I never knew growing up that this is what student ministry could be. And it filled my heart. Like, I can go a million miles on a gallon of that, because the idea was just that there is so much more depth here. John, you have parents that ask if they can come down to your student ministry every Wednesday nights.
Every week. And I will tell you, I have added leaders simply by telling them no, but you can lead. And so like, you want to come hear what we're talking about, then lead a group. And they'll do it. Look, students grow deeper, leaders grow deeper when there's a clear vision. Volunteers, when they know where the ship is headed, it's a huge thing. And the most amazing thing is what you'll see is you have the people that are bought in, that are in the room, that are bought in. They begin to feel the shift.
They feel the rhythm. They feel the rhyme.
Get on up. It's bobsled time. Though, Ian, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
The shift goes from entertainment, and I'm going to lob it to you to know what the word is.
To equipping.
You go from, you don't come to perform, you come to teach.
But it's because you're showing that you take discipleship seriously, right? Like it is a serious thing. And that is, I want to warn you, because this is where you've got to have some intestinal fortitude and be able to say, because here's the thing, we operate like ice cream salesmen trying to please everybody, and not like shepherds who want to feed people well. And so the shift in that is to say, when you go to something like this, there might be pushback. And most of the time you need to go, no, this is right. We're going to do this. And man, it's going to make a difference. And you push past it. If people get angry, you don't have to be a jerk. You just say, listen, I appreciate that you care about that. But for us, we need to see our students grow deeper and then do it for a year. A year is not very long. Do it for a year.
No.
But that's kind of the heartbeat behind Lines, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the heartbeat behind Lines. It's going to be the heartbeat behind 43 for 52 when
That's
it's
right.
out. And so here's a couple highlights of what you get with Lines. And that's what that's ultimately what we're going to ask you to do, is to take a look at Lines.
Yeah. You can we're going to send you to a link where you can download the first 3 sessions for free.
Yeah.
I mean, why would you not do that?
But the first thing is it's built for student pastors and ministry leaders that are tired of the scramble.
Yep. That's right.
It's 48 sessions over 4 quarters.
It's 12 sessions a quarter.
One clear, continuous arc that looks at the line through Scripture where Christ is, and every quarter builds on the last. Every week builds from the week before to the next week, with Bible reading plans for parents,
for family,
for
questions
families.
for families to ask. It's a big deal.
Yeah,
we're using it in our church. It's great.
Yeah, we're using it in ours. I think you guys are on quarter two, and we're on quarter 4.
Way ahead.
And we've got people all over. We got people all over the country. Like, we've got one, I think, in California. She's almost finished.
Yeah, she is. Well, but man, I'm telling you, it's deep theology, and it's written for 11 to 18-year-olds, which seems crazy, but it's not, because marketing and everybody, the push is for 11 to 18-year-old in the same marketing bracket.
Yep.
But it's formatted for leaders. And everything that you will find, we need to do a whole nother podcast on this, but everything that we do is formatted the same way, so your leaders don't get fatigued. They actually go, oh, I know how it's laid out.
Yep.
And so, but it's designed, man.
And the leader development is built into the curriculum, which is great. So your leaders are learning
of both worlds.
Your leaders are learning how to lead the material as they're learning the material.
Man, we built Lines because, I mean, we were just tired of week-to-week stress and 4-week plans, and we wanted something that helps student pastors lead with vision again.
Yeah, we did. And it's more than content. It's a rhythm, and it lets you build momentum over a full year instead of starting over week after week.
Honestly, man, it is like everything else we do. It's what we wish we had 10 years ago to help us through the principal issues. And so, man, what does that all mean for you? Well, I'll just tell you, the recap here is churches are recycling members instead of reproducing disciples. People they're starting to commit in our culture to long stories, and they crave depth. Formation takes time, rhythm, and relationship. Structure frees your people, not programs. And with a year-long plan like Lines, well, it gives your ministry a backbone that you can build everything else off of. So, man, I recommend you to take it. John, you got any closing lines for us?
Well, I would just ask you some questions. I would say, number one, like, if someone were to ask you, like, what story is your ministry telling this year?
Yeah, that's right.
What is it? And could your students explain it? Do your leaders see it? Do your parents trust it? I think that's huge. And we just want to encourage you that long-term discipleship is how we stop recycling and switching people church to church. We start producing disciples who make disciples. So if you want to see what a full year plan looks like, want to check out Lines, we're going to send you over there. But I'll tell you, it's shapingstudentministry.com/lines. Even if you build your own, build something that lasts.
Show notes and infos below. You can go to shapingstudentministry.com/lines, but it's going to be there to click. And so if you guys need anything from us, you can reach out to us, email us, or just get on the website. But please become members, use what we're doing, try out the free stuff. Just don't ever go without checking in with us on what we can do for you, because we live and exist for you. That's our goal.
Retweet.
Y'all.